The phrase Blackpill typically refers to the philosophy that argues that physical attractiveness is the most critical factor in determining men's dating success, especially in modern Western countries. In the most general definition, it refers to a pessimistic outlook, or acceptance of harsh facts, and is highly correlated with the incel community. Incels are men who believe themselves to be unable to attract women sexually, typically associated with views that are hostile towards women and men who are sexually active. The term was first coined by Paragon, a blog commenter on the anti-feminist blog Dollrock, who believed that the solution to men's dating issues could only be a systematic poverty that forced women to once again rely on eugenics. One might wonder, then, how Blackpill and feminism could ever be related to one another. Blackpill feminism is characterized by a belief that immutable biological factors determine sex differences, and that the required response is radical female separation, as well as male sexual violence and patriarchy being biologically determined. In radical feminist spaces, women who identify as being blackpill often speak of other women using derogatory language, and refer to women who uphold the patriarchy as also being the enemy. A common adage among these feminists is, "There is no hope for women," which is often used in response to women taking self-harming actions under patriarchal influence. This perspective is somewhat understandable. It is true that women are upholding their own oppression.
The most stressful things about bartending is being the smartest person in the room, and I quit. Not bartending, being smart. So I think it's going to go really well tonight. I really do.
I'm going to tell you some real life examples of how bimbofication has saved my life.
Okay, I love this concept so much, and it is key to becoming whole as a woman. Hear me out. Being perceived as stupid by someone else is one of the hardest things for women to deal with, because we were raised with, you should know better, don't put yourself in that situation. You know, we were raised kind of being blamed for everybody else's actions. And so we get caught over-explaining, overthinking, overdoing, basically just being in our masculine doing energy all the time. But this concept that she explains is just about being. And that is what inherent femininity is. So start being okay with saying, I don't know. Or if you're stuck doing a bunch of stuff around the house and someone asks you why something isn't done, I don't know. Or say, and that's it. Don't absorb it.
This is best described as complicity, which refers to the way in which an agent can help to reinforce or perpetuate their own unfreedom. The classic case of complicity is the rarefied example of the voluntary slave, who chooses to adopt a way of life that alienates them from their own freedom. But for Beauvoir, complicity is a commonplace feature of female existence. The second sex offers various compelling examples of the different ways in which women can be complicit in reinforcing their own unfreedom, including by embracing and defending their position as sexual objects. Complicity is not always a matter of choice, as women's situation of dependence and subordination distorts their psychology, leading women to become complicit in ways of life that they would not otherwise choose. Beauvoir also suggests that there are benefits of compliance, which further encourages this behavior. Refusing to be the other, refusing complicity with man, would mean renouncing all the advantages an alliance with a superior caste confers on them. Lord Man will materially protect liege woman, and will be in charge of justifying her existence. Along with the economic risk, she avoids the metaphysical risk of a freedom that must invent its own goals without help. In other words, are we not aware that women who comply with patriarchal demands are, at face value, treated better? Makeup and other beauty rituals might steal away your health and give you cancer, but the girls who wear makeup, high heels, and fashionable clothing are rewarded for it. Those of us who do not are punished. Typically, this is a social punishment. Women are valued by beauty more so than intelligence or skill. If a woman can be sexualized, at times she can use this borrowed power to her own advantage, all the while not realizing that it is only loaned. Other times there is a physical punishment, such as discrimination for work or in the professional field.
So I've been seeing more of this sentiment online. Women and girls expressing that they're just not interested in intellectual pursuits. It's not that they're not intelligent, it's that they're making a conscious choice to withdraw. And instead, they're investing in things that they consider to be more valuable to their quality of life, namely sex and sexuality. And it made me think that this isn't the first time in history this has happened. So the first wave of feminism really was about women getting the right to vote, but it was also about women entering education. After the first wave, many women's universities popped up, particularly in the United States. and it was considered normal and socially valuable for women to be educated. After the Second World War, once everyone had lived through this collectively really traumatizing experience, there was this regression where women went back into the home. This is where you see the idealized 1950s housewife archetype become very popular. Betty Friedan in 1963 wrote a book called The Feminine Mystique, and it was one of the books that really kicked off second wave feminism. And her theory was that because people had lived through this collectively traumatizing experience, they wanted to have like nice, cozy experiences of domesticity in the home. And the housewife archetype was very much part of that. So women would attend universities and become educated, but they weren't really interested in the content. So Betty Friedan visited these women's universities and spoke to the professors about what they were seeing. A quote from one of these professors is, "They're bright enough, they have to be to get here at all now, but they just won't let themselves get interested. They seem to feel it'll get in the way when they marry the young executive and raise all those children in the suburbs." It just makes me think, haven't we all gone through a collectively traumatizing experience recently? In March 2020, a lot of us thought we were gonna die of a plague. There's a massive economic recession happening. There's a huge amount of war and political instability. And so no, maybe the archetype isn't to be a 1950s style housewife, though I have seen that too. Maybe the archetype has to do with pornography, another kind of feminine archetype that's becoming popular. Being a bimbo, being empty-headed, being concerned with another kind of femininity. Something that's a little easier and a little more comforting than thinking about the state of the world.
Encouraging hedonism, such as drinking, drugs, frequent casual sex, and mindless consumption, is a well-known tool to handicap social movements and keep the masses sickly, weak, distracted, and divided. Awareness of injustice is painful, and resorting to escapism and ignorance through hedonism is a self-destructive cope. It is important to note that, as Gail Dines so aptly put it, when you have been socialized as a girl to say yes your whole entire life, yes is a meaningless term. When faced with women who seem to revel in their oppression, it's important to question, what happens if they say no? What do they observe as the consequences for women who disagree? Are they choosing to support anti-feminism, or are they just choosing to be free from social ostracization and severe harassment? Feminism is toothless.
I probably shouldn't be doing this when I'm still emotional, but I feel like I need to get the word out there. So I was just in Primark in Cambridge, and I feel really stupid being emotional about this, but yeah, I was trying on some clothes, and it was a unisex changing room, which I'm really for, and I love that because, you know, it makes everyone feel included. But twice, two men opened the curtain, walked in on me. Luckily both times I was wearing fully clothed, but I could easily not have been. And it was two different people, clearly from the same group, and there was probably 100 changing rooms available. So it's not like, you know, it was like, oh, is someone in here or not? It was, you know, clearly. The first time it was like, as they walked in, they did it, and then the second time was, one of them said to the other one, oh, like, have you tried it on, like, can I see? And then he opened it, and both times, like, I was so shocked, and I was like, oh, sorry, like, as if it was my fault. But I have to say though, Primark have been amazing. They were really, really good about it. They have walked me back to my car and everything because I was scared. Apparently it's not the first time it's happened, and security are watching back the tapes and seeing if they can find who it is. But yeah, I just want to say to people, please be careful, and if you go in the changing room, try not go on your own. I will never be doing that again. I would rather take it home, try it on, and then take it back and get refunded. So yeah, stay safe.
The modern feminist movement has diverged from the goal of women's liberation to become a catch-all term to refer to things that make people happy. And I say people because often it is argued that feminism is for everyone, not just women. Most modern feminism in the West, or liberal feminism, is actually choice feminism, where the ideology defines the action instead of the other way around. Therefore, if you like makeup and dressing feminine, it becomes a feminist action because you decree it to be so, even though those actions are tied into female oppression. Modern feminism has shifted in that to become acceptable by most of the Western world, it has had to drop many of its harsher stances, specifically those that go against the status quo and take away from the right to harm and control women from men. The reason why liberal feminism is toothless is the exact reason why participating in radical feminism is so important. Porn is becoming omnipresent.
So let's talk about this Balenciaga ad, this new Balenciaga ad with this little baby holding a BDSM bear. BDSM, we already know that's adult sexual, tying, bondage, chains, whips, things like that. So for Balenciaga to try to make this a norm and make it seem like that we're crazy because we see that you guys are sexualizing kids. No child should have a bondage bear. No child should have a bear with those types of bondage gear on them. Like, what exactly are you trying to perpetuate? Like, what type of image is it that you're trying to say, oh, it's normal for a child to have BDSM and you're crazy for sexualizing a child. No, you're crazy because you're sexualizing the child and you're trying to make it normal. So here is one of the ads that they replaced, the child ad with. And if you read right here, Michael Borman's, just go Google him. Go Google him. His artwork is literally surrounding the naked children with dismembered body parts. They're painted in blood. Just look him up. Type in Michael Borman's kid art, and it's just disturbing. So they're trying to make it normal that children and sexual activities, children being in the nude, rubbed in blood, and all of the satanic work that they are using and saying that it's art. They're trying to make it normal, and they try to make us seem like that we are crazy. My problem that I have with it is, where is everybody who has something to say about Kanye? Where is everybody who has something to say about the basketball player Kyrie Irving? Where's all them people? Y'all had so much to say because they are standing up for, whatever they believe in, whether it's black or Jew or whatever. Y'all got so much to say about that. But where are those same voices? Where's Kim Kardashian? Because we know Kim Kardashian wear Balenciaga from head to toe. We see her in Balenciaga from head to toe. Where's she at? When they got this book right here in this background on this ad. Come on, the mad thing. Y'all know what y'all doing. We know what y'all doing. We gonna say something, and ye gonna keep saying something. Y'all can keep acting like everybody else is crazy for bringing awareness to the fact that these big companies, are trying to perpetuate or try to give out the image that child pornography and pedophilia is a part of the LGBTQ. It's not. There's nothing about that that's a part of the LGBTQ community. We don't condone pedophile or any of that, anything with a child. We don't condone it.
Hence another reason to fight so staunchly against the glorification of sexual availability. The omnipresence of porn has led to vast social change, in that children are often exposed to porn for the first time at 8 years old. They learn sexuality from its recorded, commodified, and personal abusive form, and then seek to repeat that. With empowerment often defined as simply feeling good instead of actual gaining power, it is easy to sell to women the idea of using their bodies as currency, and to hide sexualization within other trends like makeup and fashion. It is normal to follow trends, and many women are unaware of the impact of following them, especially when there is a concerted effort to mislead them.
You're a victim. There we go, CSI.
Violence against women is growing.
This self-identified incel was arrested for planning to massacre thousands of women. These were his plans and how he was caught. But first, if you don't know what an incel is, aka involuntarily celibate, the DOJ describes it as this. The incel movement is an online community of predominantly men who harbor anger towards women. And that is definitely a lighthearted description of what these people believe. From 2019 to March of 2020, this 22-year-old man posted on several popular incel websites. He wrote that he would slaughter women out of hatred, jealousy, and revenge. He referred to murdering women as the Great Equalizer, and he hoped to kill around 3,000 women. On the day he posted that, he also searched up sororities at a university in Ohio, which is where he lives. On January 15th, 2020, he searched planning a shooting crime, as well as when does preparing for a crime become an attempt. On that same day, he scoped out the same college in Ohio. This man also wrote about how he adored another incel mass shooter, Elliot Rodger, who took the lives of 6 people in 2014. What Elliot did and what this man planned on doing are identical. And if that's not enough evidence that this incel is going to commit a tragedy, here's a list of what he bought in 2019. A bulletproof vest, a hoodie with the word revenge, a Bowie knife, a skull face mask, a 9mm Glock 17, and 2 magazines. He also attended Army basic training in Georgia for 5 months. On March 12, 2020, police searched the incel's home and car. They found several guns, boxes of ammunition, body armor, and more. 3 months later, he was charged with attempting to commit a hate crime and illegally possessing a machine gun. Because that hate crime involved attempt to kill, he could face life in prison plus 10 years. On October 11th of this year, he pleaded guilty to all the charges. He also admitted that if he wasn't caught, he was going to massacre a bunch of women.
The leading cause of death in pregnant women is murder. Masculinity Threat, Incel Traits and Violent Fantasies Among Heterosexual Men in the United States reports that women and children are overrepresented in mass shooting victims. Yet analysis of patriarchal norms and attitudes that frame and encourage such violence and its connection to sex-based or partner violence is all but absent. We find that men with greater gender role stress, more hostile attitudes towards women, and incel traits report more frequent fantasies about mass murder and rape. While most men will not commit such heinous acts, our focus on these prevalent and more general gender attitudes and processes is both worrisome and important. In other words, violence against women is growing in conjunction with the rise of pornography, with the rise of anti-feminism, and the rise of women in fields that were previously only open to or extremely biased towards men. The way to address this is to attack the problem at its source, not to claim that the problem itself is too big to handle or otherwise inevitable. And women's oppression is becoming the definition of womanhood.
What's wrong? What is it?
How I love being a woman. This is most easily recognized in the trans movement, which seeks to redefine gender by regressive gender roles and stereotypes instead of an observation of material reality. The definition for womanhood, which is inherently exclusionary of males, has been rewritten to include men who feel like women on account of their affinity for femininity, for the rituals made to confine and degrade us. And it is due to this redefinition that women are attempting to evade their oppression by choosing not to identify as women.
I don't want to lose you, girl.
I'm not a girl.
You're the smartest girl in the world.
I'm not a girl.
But girl.
Not a girl.
And I think I love you too, girl.
I'm not a girl.
Body of a white lady.
Not a lady.
Not a lady, darling.
I love you, girl.
Not a girl.
Which does nothing to actually change or address the oppression itself. It is hard to remain positive in the light of so much. As Andrea Dworkin once wrote, many women, I think, resist feminism because it is an agony to be fully conscious of the brutal misogyny which permeates culture, society, and all personal relationships. Those of us who have embraced awareness are in a hell of our own choosing, but it wouldn't be any better if we remained ignorant. The bars of the cage do not disappear just because we refuse to look at them. Optimism and a desire to not only see, but personally enact change is needed to create a better world. After all, if you don't think the world can change, what are you doing here? It's far easier to give in to the idea of hopelessness than it is to fight against the issue at hand. After all, the belief that the world is inherently patriarchal, that our oppression is an innate part of human culture, denies personal agency and responsibility. This is one of the concepts of bioessentialism, which, as defined by Oxford Reference, is the belief that human nature, an individual's personality, or some specific quality, such as intelligence, creativity, homosexuality, masculinity, femininity, or male propensity to aggression, is an innate and natural essence, rather than a product of circumstances, upbringing, and culture. This is closely related to biological determinism, which is the idea that an individual's personality or behavior is caused by their particular genetic endowment, rather than by social or cultural factors, by nature rather than nurture, and is often used colloquially to refer to the stance that males are the naturally dominant sex by virtue of anatomy and genetics, or that women are naturally carers by virtue of their reproductive capabilities. This lens ignores the existence of the patriarchy, which is an observation of males oppressing females on the basis of sex, and which has existed for such a long time that it becomes difficult to extricate from any human culture. So when both Blackpill feminists and incels claim that fulfilling patriarchal standards is an innate behavior, in both men and women, they are ignoring the role that culture plays in shaping human behavior. There is a reason that human nature is a topic of debate for philosophers and not scientists. Human nature suggests that all humans can be reduced to a single type, and as we can see, the human race is broadly diverse. The belief that genes alone determine human behavior is the basis of social Darwinism, an ideology used to justify the oppression of non-privileged groups. When one argues that men are inherently genetically aggressive, dominant, and violent, and that women are inherently submissive, it is the same argument used to validate the genocide of Native Americans or the enslavement of African Americans. It completely ignores the impact that social forces have on behavior. Arguing that women inherently seek out dominant or abusive men is to ignore that generations of patriarchy created reliance on men for subsistence, and that the culture of women evolved alongside that. Similar to the argument that black people are poor due to genetic deficiency, which ignores how slavery has impacted the transference and growth of wealth, as well as access to education and resources. The argument of human nature reinforces oppression because it justifies it. The idea that men are inherently genetically predisposed to violence also supports the idea that the behaviors of men are unchangeable. While it is true that male aggression is more overt and direct than female aggression, and that men make up the majority of violent offenders, it would be remiss to forget that we live in a society that excuses and often encourages this behavior. As stated in Lisa Elliott's Brain Development and Physical Aggression, How a Small Gender Difference Grows into a Violence Problem, regardless of gender, children's physical aggressiveness peaks between 2 and 4 years of age, but then starts diverging, as girls learn more quickly than boys to suppress such overt behaviors. By puberty, there is a sizable gender difference in physical aggression and violence. Learning, or neuroplasty, is both a primary cause and key intervention for minimizing male aggression and violence. Although children begin life with both prosocial and antisocial tendencies, it is clear that aggressive acts are common in young children and mostly wane as they grow. Babies are naturally selfish, trying to survive by shepherding resources such as food, toys, and parental affection. Among the handful of emotions present from early infancy is anger, which is felt and expressed at moments of frustration, a common situation for infants who have little control over their environment. And anger and frustration are the primary emotions that drive aggressive acts. Importantly, the experience of anger does not differ between boys and girls. If anything, female infants may exhibit anger more readily than boys. Nonetheless, parents tend to be more accepting of anger in sons than daughters, a difference that likely influences boys' and girls' differential success at repressing aggression as they grow. Both mothers and fathers participate in this training. Mothers accept anger and tantrums more from their sons than their daughters, while fathers are likelier to soothe their daughters and upbraid their sons when they express fear or sadness. The fact that young boys and girls have similar experiences of frustration and anger means they are equally motivated to aggress if they feel another person is blocking their aims. This is reflected in the similar prevalence of physical aggression between boys and girls in the first few years of life. According to large longitudinal studies from Europe and North America, most children start to use physical aggression in the second year of life, some 80% of children at the age of 17 months if they have siblings. Based on parent and teacher surveys, boys and girls are about equally likely to hit, bite, or kick another person during the toddler and early preschool years. This behavior actually peaks between 2 and 4 years of age and then steadily declines throughout childhood when most children learn to inhibit such inappropriate behaviors. The catch is that physical aggression declines more rapidly in girls than boys for the remainder of childhood. Hay enumerated all the following as contributors to the gender divergence in physical aggression over childhood. 1. Girls' faster neurobiological maturation, especially of frontal lobe-mediated inhibitory control. 2. Boys' greater engagement in rough and tumble play, which increases the opportunity to commit inappropriately aggressive physical acts. 3. Gender segregation, such that boys' play is likelier to be steered by the handful of highly aggressive children, whereas girls' groups include fewer such influencers. 4. Parental intolerance and, in some cases, encouragement of aggression in sons but not in daughters. And perhaps most importantly, number 5, early male vulnerability, the well-replicated finding that boys are more sensitive to a poor environment and likelier to suffer both medically and psychologically from economic hardship and psychosocial trauma. Socialization prepares people to participate in a social group by learning its norms and expectations. Socialization has 3 primary goals: teaching impulse control and developing a conscience, preparing people to perform certain social roles, and cultivating shared sources of meaning and value. While genetics influences a person's personality, personality is also shaped, especially during the critical years, by environment. In other words, genetics may provide the blueprint, but the environment determines how those instructions are expressed. We can't change genetics, but we sure as hell can change what we cultivate in our children and what behaviors and ideas we want to shape our world. The whole nature versus nurture debate itself is often rejected by sociologists and psychologists who recognize that our behavior in psychology is the result of an interaction between nature and nurture, not one or the other. That might seem like a broad goal, but just as intervention programs have been made to assist vulnerable families in stopping generational abuse, we too can change the direction the next generation takes through legislation, education, and community action that actively seeks to oppose the culture of misogyny much of the world is built on. Will it be easy? Of course not. But the first step to enacting change is realizing that there is a problem that needs to be addressed. Women are not inherently submissive. Men are not inherently aggressive. These are behaviors that are encouraged in a gendered but often invisible way. It's quiet. It's hard to spot when it's so ubiquitous. It's understandable why one would become nihilistic about the future of feminism, especially with all the setbacks in recent years and with the increase of women willing to work against women's liberation. But we cannot let that type of thinking prevent us from working towards change. If we believe the battle is already lost, this is a loss through our own inaction. Some ways to combat feelings of hopelessness include volunteering in your own community, educating others on these topics, talking with others who have similar views, and entering a feminist space. Quite simply, women who go black pill often get preyed on in exactly the same way male incels do. Except that while male incels often make plans to mass rape and murder, women turn their isolation and anger towards themselves instead of on the world around them. Their derision towards other women who support or deny the existence of the patriarchy is understandable, but ultimately their arguments tend to circle right back around to regressive ideas in order to support their nihilism. While it's fair to say that all men pose a threat because all men benefit from the patriarchy, it's not fair to say that all men are born evil because that's biological determinism and antithetical to radical feminism. We cannot change biology, but we can certainly change human behavior. Women are not beyond saving. The patriarchy is not the inherent human condition, and male domination is not a foregone conclusion. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I have intense tooth pain, so I'm sorry if I did not catch all of my mistakes and like I normally do when I'm editing these videos. And I also apologize if I'm talking fast because it hurts to talk. But I wanted to get this video out because it was meant to come out last week, but I felt like the script needed more work before it was actually given out. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please let me know. But basically, you know I'm a psychology student, and I think that a lot of people who do go black pill, there's no hope for women, we're not going to escape the patriarchy alive, we're not going to make it out. Part of that is a belief in the innateness of patriarchy in both men and women. So, yes, women do things that are very stupid and against women's liberation. And yes, they made that choice themselves, but it's important to remember that that's in the framework of a patriarchal world and that influences beyond us. Even like ones that we don't witness, we don't notice, whatever, those are impactful. And we can't exactly blame other women for not being able to break out of it as easy as we can. I mean, it's not that easy, and certainly calling other women cocksuckers and other derogative terms isn't helping anything. If you want to make the world a better place, then go do some community action instead of calling other women rude names for things that just aren't really working towards the goal of women's liberation in the first place. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, leave them down below. Patreon, buy me a coffee, etc. If you have any ideas, etc., comment section, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.